This is a podcast here on 7220sports.com. I'm your host, Cody Tucker, joined as always by Jared Newland. We're in beautiful downtown Cheyenne, and we're talking a little Wyoming Cowboy basketball today. And the best part is, Jared, excited to talk about Wyoming Cowboy basketball. This isn't the pulling teeth thing that it was in the beginning of the year, because it was just, we were excited about football still, and the Cowboys played in that late bowl game, and
that day, the basketball team got waxed by BYU,
yes,
which actually pisses you off even that much more.
Yep, and the Craig Bowl retirement and all that stuff. I think we were trying to milk football season for all it was worth, and now the Cowboys are totally taking our attention away.
But 4 weeks ago, we were like, oh, gosh, it's going to be another long year. Find me 5 conference wins.
Yeah.
Well, they're already there.
Yep.
And it just turned February,
we talked about it off the air that, man, I don't even know if I see a few wins on here. I don't know.
And a lot of it became from the Weber State game, which was just miserable to watch. It was miserable. And then they needed 2 last-second shots from Big Shot Cott to actually get there. And then the miraculous comeback, improbable comeback against Colorado State. And then they go down to the Air Force Academy, and really, other than the first 4 or 5 minutes of the game, you're like, oh, man, they need to get out on certain guys. But then Wyoming just took over, and that's probably one of the most efficient games I've ever seen Wyoming play.
No doubt, especially in conference, especially in that building and in conference. Some of the best Wyoming teams we've seen go down there and struggle.
Wenzel has 25 points on 8 shots.
Yeah.
That's incredible.
Yeah, no doubt.
And your leading scorer doesn't score until the second half, late in the second half, where they didn't need him.
Yeah.
He was doing other things.
Yep.
And there was other players that were playing better than him, especially on defense.
And they were busting their ass on defense because you got to follow those guys around all over the joint for 30 seconds every time down the court. So especially at Brendan Wenzel. It was the game plan. The game plan to leave Kellen Boylan all by his lonesome out on the arc. And for a while there, even talking to my colleagues courtside, we're like, man, they got to abandon this game plan. This guy might hit 23s tonight. I mean, it just looked that easy.
Unfortunately, that career high, we'll say, against Wyoming on whatever date it was in the media guide throughout his entire career.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah, he had only made 13 threes entering this one, makes 9, tying a school record. But we can't really talk a lot about this Air Force game without putting it in context. We have to talk about the Colorado State game. We haven't been on since. The reason I say we have to talk about CSU first is because now, folks, that would have been a mega letdown if they go into Air Force and lose that game after what they did. They come off an emotional game and an unbelievable win. There's been numerous reports. UW says it's the 5th biggest comeback or the 5th most improbable comeback or whatever in college basketball history. Others have said 2, 3, whatever. It was huge. It was absolutely huge. And if they would have come into Colorado Springs and laid an egg, all those good feelings would have been right out the door.
Yeah, whatever it is, they're only one of 5 teams to make a comeback with 52 seconds or less of 11 points or more. So that's what it is. But it's how everything came down.
Yeah.
I mean, a missed front ends of one-on-ones, missed second free throws by Wyoming, but get the offensive rebound. Another one goes out of bounds. Wyoming gets the ball. The timeout with Powell sliding across the floor, which from one angle, it looks like half of his back is out of bounds. Mm-hmm. But they give Wyoming the timeout. I mean, just all those things. Isaiah Stevens throwing the ball away. Isaiah Stevens missing a free throw. I think Clifford's probably CSU's best player.
He's great.
And
he's really
him
good.
Fouling out obviously helped a lot. Because when CSU played the other night, he kicked ass.
He's really good. He's kind of like their new Tanjay. He just stepped right in seamlessly. And honestly, I'm ashamed to say it, but I think you guys could understand where I'm coming from. You and Jared penned a column on 7220sports.com this week. If you can, check it out.
Thanks for the edits, by the way.
Yeah, there wasn't many. I will say there wasn't many. You would be the best one to talk about this because I got to be honest, I had my head down writing Wyoming's obituary. This game was over. I remember I really started hammering down once CSU started walking to the other side of the floor to shoot their free throws. I mean, this thing was over. The Cowboys hadn't scored in 8 minutes. So I'm like, all right, done deal. This is over. This is the one that got away. They shouldn't have lost this game. They played way too damn good in this game to lose this. The crowd was too good to lose this. And you watched as I had my head down on my computer thinking, oh, cute, the Cowboys are making this score look a little closer than it really is. I even wrote that in my story, like, yeah, they made a few meaningless baskets at the end. And then next thing you know, holy blank.
Delete.
Yeah, holy blank, they did it.
Well, it was funny because I'm standing there with some buddies in the stands, and one guy had a bet on the over, which was at the beginning of the game was 148.5. Well, obviously in regulation, there's like no way to ever get. So he did an in-game bet on the under of 128. So we're like, oh no, can't get another free throw here because then they're going to get it. And then next thing you know, it's like you need to start betting on Wyoming to actually win this game in game.
Yeah.
And then when it got to overtime, I said, you need your over's going to hit now.
Yeah.
So it was just all these things. And at the end of regulation, go out and use the restroom. There's people coming back in taking their jackets off because they had already gotten all the way to their vehicle.
Yep.
And I probably wouldn't have turned the radio on, maybe to hear what Linder said.
Yeah.
Just say, like, what the hell happened the last 8 minutes,
Yeah.
Because you guys were in control of this game. They get out to their vehicle. Wyoming's just going to tie this game up, and it's going to overtime.
Yeah.
So they're rushing back in to take their seats again.
My friend left with 9 seconds left, and I called her after the game, and I said, first thing I said, just lie to me and tell me you stayed, because I know damn well you didn't. And she goes, no, I didn't. We got in the car, though, and we started driving away, turned it on just randomly, because they're not even huge fans. They turn it on randomly, and they're just like, wait a minute. They were down 9 with no time left. How did this happen?
Well, being down 11 with 52 to go is one thing, but then being down 5 with 9 seconds to go, and just how it all came about is just so crazy.
And it couldn't have happened to a better team.
Oh, that makes it even that much more better. And hopefully this gets fans rejuvenated again.
It's certainly got me
there
rejuvenated.
is a lot of good basketball teams coming into Laramie.
Yeah.
You have New Mexico, Utah State, and Boise State all coming to the arena still in this season.
Yep.
And one of them's coming up next Tuesday night against a very good New Mexico team. Now, will they still be ranked after losing at home the other night? I think they will be because they were 18th.
Yeah.
Or they were high enough. I think they'll be all right. And as long as they take care of business tomorrow.
And Wyoming has traditionally played the Lobos really well at home. If you remember last year, we were at the Arizona Bowl, but New Mexico had to pull it out at the end and 1 by 1 at the very end. And as you know, that Wyoming team last year was a little different than this one. I joked with Coach Linder after the game in Colorado Springs on Tuesday that, this time last year we were standing in this very tunnel talking to you after we just got done talking to Ethan Anderson and Nate Barnhart after another disheartening loss, and one that, you guys weren't really in very much last year. I mean, it was tight for a little bit, but lost at Neos, man. It's night and day in every sense of the word. Not to mention it was 65 degrees outside, and last year the team got stuck in their bus on the way home on 287, and they were like going down a hill, so they all had to sit on one side of the bus to make sure the damn thing didn't go down the hill. I mean, that's just a microcosm of how bad last year was that trip to Air Force in a nutshell. And now we're talking to Mason Walters, who just scored 20. We're talking to Wenzel, who just scored 25. Griffin, like you mentioned, he only had 6. He hit 2 threes at the very end. Cott has 20-plus. That's the first time since 2008 that 3 Cowboys have scored 20-plus in a game.
And that just seems crazy because there's been plenty of games to where Wyoming was – Nevada is a great example.
Yeah,
98 points.
Yeah.
And they didn't have 3 guys that scored 20-plus. I mean, there's been plenty of games like that.
Yeah. Yeah, well, we talked about it before we came on the air. Things were pretty glum about 3/4 of the way through that Fresno State game. And you're thinking, oh, my God. Because you can't help but look ahead at the schedule and how good the Mountain West has been. And you look ahead and you go, oh, boy. I mean, Nevada, San Diego State, and CSU back to back to back. I mean, this is 0-3 written all over it if they don't win that Fresno State game, and then they play that final 10 minutes with a huge sense of urgency, and Cott hits the jumper to win it at the buzzer. Ever since that moment, this team has taken off, and they have swagger now, and they're confident. They played with such a great flow in Colorado Springs. They were just so confident, and I must admit, sitting down courtside like we're able to do at Clune Arena, you get just such a better look at things. And I tell you who looks really confident is a guy like Cale Combs, freshman who's played few minutes. He's in control, man. He's a field general. And then you look down and Caden Powell, who you can hardly get a word out of elsewise, he is so vocal on the court, and he is, Linder mentioned it yesterday, he's that final line of defense who's got everything in front of him, and he's barking stuff out that entire game, and they were in a flow, they were in a rhythm. The shots, you can tell from our seats, are just wide open, and they're draining them, and that's the big difference. And in the beginning, Air Force was draining theirs too, but they left that guy wide open. It was cool to hear Linder and Wenzel got into it during that first media timeout, because Wenzel's like, man, are we going to sit here and watch this guy drain threes all day? Like, what the hell are we doing? Trust me, Linder said, trust me. That guy is not going to make 15 threes like you'll need to keep them in this game.
Didn't look like there was a lot of cadets in that end zone that there usually is.
5.
They kept showing the camera views. Sorry to get off on this rant, but some of them had computers in their laps.
I believe it.
Yeah.
There were 5 dudes in their student section, and they were all on their phones, and they booed Wyoming during intros. Other than that, they didn't make a peep.
Wow.
I don't know what happened with Air Force. Like, why they used to make it mandatory that those cats all showed up, and when they did,
especially for certain games.
Oh man, when they did, that place was rocking, and it was annoying and horrible and rocking. And now it's nothing short of a morgue, for sure. And you could hear the few squawkers behind us. I know Mason Walters was just that guy was just bullying Air Force in the paint all night, and this lady behind me kept going, he can't just back into guys like that. Yes, he can. And he will, and he does, and he kept doing it all night long. So
he gets called once a game.
Yeah, oh yeah.
For an offensive foul.
Yeah. I'm just talking like a straight up backing down.
But when he gets called for it, he's extending his arm and his elbow out. But.
Imagine if Mason Walters didn't turn the ball over 6 times. That was his struggle on Tuesday night. And the Cowboys, they turned the ball over 9 times total. 6 of those belong to Mason Walters. And granted, Air Force is a stingy little team. They're always underneath you. Their hands are always moving. They're always picking at the ball. And Mason Walters has never faced Air Force before.
And think about this. This Air Force team, 0 transfers, which they're probably never going to get a transfer, obviously.
Yeah.
0 seniors, 9 freshmen.
Yeah.
I mean,
they might be
watch
good.
out. I mean, Joe Scott's got him going.
Yeah.
And we all know what happens when he gets them going. He takes them to the NCAA tournament.
Yeah, no doubt. Yeah, I just thought, like you said, I was really impressed. Wyoming wins that one 83-72. They were in control. The first half was just a really good basketball game, just 2 teams going at it back and forth. And then Wyoming just put a stranglehold on that thing. And Wenzel was so confident, just knocking down threes left and right. Aquel Cott, speaking of sitting courtside, I mean, watching that guy courtside, he is slick, man. He's got some unbelievable moves. He can create his own shot like you can't believe.
When you saw him out of control earlier in the season, he was losing his footing a lot of times.
Yeah, and he did once.
Yeah, and it's getting a lot better, though. Yeah. He and Griffin are both playing more under control.
No doubt. Well, I would encourage you guys to go to 7220sports.com today. I just wrote a story before I came in to do this podcast about, the reasons Wyoming has turned this thing around and the reason they've won 4 out of the last 5. And it doesn't take long to look through this. I mean, they did have the 15 turnovers at San Diego State, which really hurt them. A scoring drought also hurt them as well in that 81-65 loss. Other than that, in wins over Fresno State, 12 turnovers. Nevada, 11. I think they'd even like to see those come down. But then you get into CSU, 7 turnovers, Air Force 9 turnovers, and like I mentioned, 6 of those belong to Mason Walters on his own. So you got a lot of ball handlers there that are taking care of the basketball. The 3-point shooting has been nothing short of incredible. They hit 12 of 19 against Air Force. They're number 1 in the Mountain West in 3-point percentage. They've hit 159 of 400 free throws. They're number 8 in Division I, nearly 40% from behind the arc. Against Nevada, they were 13 of 23. We did see a dip against CSU, 5 of 22, but, they're getting in double-digit threes. Look out. And they're just shooting well from the field. I mean, against Air Force, 56% from the field. CSU, 44%, not great. San Diego State, 40%. That was the low mark, but 57.7 against Nevada, 45 against Fresno State. So they're shooting the ball well. The other thing, and the main reason I wrote that story today is the really encouraging part is the thing we don't even get to see, which is that this is turning into a player-led team. And those 2 years of covering Tom Izzo, he said that all the time. I can't be the leader of this freaking team. I need my guys to take control and do their thing. Linder is starting to see that with this group, starting with Sam Griffin.
And speaking of Tom Izzo, got his 700th win the other day, so congrats to him.
Yep, absolutely.
We both had
dealings
with him. Mine was a little bit different than yours. I didn't see him every day or every game type of a deal. Mine was a one-weekend deal, but it was very good, and with the national championship trophy and stuff like that. But he was such a nice guy.
He's the best.
And you've had plenty more dealings with him, and the call he made to
to Emily's grandfather was unbelievable.
Yep.
Yeah, he's a great human being. And it's funny, I when I first met Tom, I was like, once I got comfortable, I guess, when I first met Tom, I said, why don't you quit being a pussy and come to take your team to Laramie? And he was like, no chance. His former best friend used to be the assistant commissioner of the WAC, so he's actually been to a game in Laramie and CSU as a observer. And he's like, no shot in hell am I taking my team anywhere near there. However, he brought up Colby Woolman from Bighorn, and Colby played for Michigan State, and the story is so cool that he went to a student. Izzo does all these cool things with the students. He does a big camp out, the his own camp out, where he buys everybody pizza, and there's thousands of kids there, and they get up and speak, and they're up all night hanging out together, and then he does an open tryout for the student body. Colby Woolman, who was there on a scholarship because he's one of those smart kids that eventually went on to Vanderbilt and got his doctorate. He came and tried out, just goofing around. I don't think Tom Izzo goes into that actually looking for somebody. He looked at Colby Woolman and found out that kid can play.
Yep.
And he did have some offers out of Bighorn, I guess, from what I understand, to some smaller, maybe some Black Hills type situations. Next thing you know, he's in a Final Four. And he said he's one of his favorite players of all time. So I owe Colby Woolman a beer because Tom liked me because of him. So, yeah, congrats to him for sure. On the horizon here, Wyoming is going into a place tomorrow night that has not been very friendly, Jared. Have not won a game since Dante Richardson netted 25 against the Rebels in 2003.
There was a bush in the White House at that time, you guys.
Yeah. Yes, there was.
It's unbelievable to think about.
It really is. I mean, look at all the coaches Wyoming's gone through. That was Steve McLean, and they've gone through all these coaches, and they've never won there. They had a 2-point loss at some point under Chiat. Other than that, it's been a margin of victory of like 12 or 14, whatever.
And yes, Wyoming has beat UNLV in the Mountain West tournament, but it's their home arena. It's not their home floor, and it's set up differently. And it's the last 5, 6, 7 years, maybe even longer, UNLV fans do not show up to the tournament.
No.
They used to come out in groves.
2 years ago, the Cowboys had to win that game. If they don't win that opener against UNLV on that floor, which I wrote this very same thing, the Cowboys never win here. They've never beaten UNLV here. I mean, they haven't done it in years since I was a little kid. I mean, 2003, I was a year out of high school the last time they won that game. So that was a big one, man. And if Cowboys don't win that game, they're not going to Dayton. They're not in the first four. There's no way they're going to the big dance with a loss in the opening round of the Mountain West tournament. Wyoming fans outnumbered UNLV fans that day inside the Thompson Mack. I want to say by quite a margin as well. And the New Mexico fans that were there were going for Wyoming, and I mean, it was.
Well, then you go back to the Josh Adams dunk.
Yeah.
Where he was in midair and had to move the ball away from getting swatted and then threw it down over the guy.
Yeah.
Which is one of my favorite dunks of all
stud. Time. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and I mean, it's pretty crazy to think about. Since the Mountain West was formed, the Cowboys they haven't had a lot of luck in that building, period. I mean, that's the only time they've ever won the Mountain West championship.
Mm-hmm.
I want to say, I might be wrong on this, correct me if I'm wrong, I think the only other time the Cowboys made the championship game was in the Pepsi Center. I was there against San Diego State, but I don't think they ever made a championship inside.
Nope, they always got beat in the semifinals.
And I remember even Marcus Bailey had to hit a miracle shot to beat Air Force in the opening round when the Cowboys were a number one seed.
Yeah, to get to the semis.
Yeah. So Thompson Mack has not been a friendly joint for the Cowboys. This UNLV team, too, they're bizarre. I mean, Air Force just absolutely boat raced them inside the Thomas and Mack.
30 points.
90-58. Air Force. I couldn't believe. I was kind of keeping an eye on that score, and I'm like, there's no way that's right.
It's gotta be
there's no way that's right. Yeah, just got murdered. And then they've beaten New Mexico. They go up and beat Boise State in the nation's longest home winning streak at 22 games. Then they lose in the most CSU fashion, I guess you could call it now. They give up a 5-point play with 14 seconds remaining against Utah State, or they have a top 25 win over the Aggies. And maybe UNLV, they're starting to talk about them maybe on the bubble. Instead, they give up a 5-point play. Utah State drills a 3. There's a foul under the hoop. Ozabor hits both of his free throws. Game over. They had a 4-point lead evaporate just like that on a 5-point play.
And their win against Creighton was in Las Vegas, but not in the Thompson Mack.
Right.
They played,
and they beat their ass.
Yeah, they played in one of the other arenas.
Yeah.
There,
and they were number 8 in the country at the time they won that game. UNLV has since won a couple of games. They've beaten Fresno State. They've beaten San Jose State, a couple teams they should beat. The Fresno State game actually got a little close. We asked Linder about this yesterday. Obviously, he has nothing to do with why Wyoming's lost 19 straight games in that building. But he knows UNLV always has superior talent. I mean, it's truly amazing that the Rebels haven't been the dominant team we're talking about. That New Mexico will pop up, Utah State will pop up, Boise State pops up, San Diego State. I think UNLV has had the talent where why haven't they done what San Diego State does?
Well, especially the last 2 years with the portal and now with NIL.
Yes.
How can they not get that going?
Yeah.
I mean, we all know what happened back in the late 80s and early 90s.
Yeah.
They were legal as could be.
UNLV
and were
invented
winning.
NIL.
Yeah. Sitting in a hot tub with certain moguls.
Yes. Yeah, no doubt. And when they're good, the Thomas and Mack is one of the best venues in the conference, if not the country.
It is. And there was so many games there where the upper deck, that whole upper area was full during Mountain West tournament games.
No doubt.
Now they're lucky if they get 10 people to sit up there.
Yeah, it's weird. I remember one of the last times, I think it was BYU's last year in the conference at the Mountain West tournament. The whole place was full. Yeah. There wasn't a seat to be had. I actually was in the upper deck. So you want to see UNLV, UNLV could really bolster the Mountain West and make them really even that much stronger. So they're a weird team, though. I guess you don't really know what to expect out of these guys. And I know before we came on, you said that you have a good feeling about tomorrow night. I kind of do, too.
I do, and I have no reason to do that because of obvious reasons, 19 in a row, coming away with your tail between your legs there. But
yeah,
I just have a good feeling about that the Cowboys can pull this off tomorrow night.
And if they do, I hate to put the cart in front of the horse at all, but New Mexico Tuesday night in Laramie, like we talked about, Wyoming has traditionally played them very well inside the arena auditorium. Then you have Utah State coming to town the following week. Like you mentioned, unfortunately, none of these games are on a Saturday, which sucks. But Tuesday night, that's where the students start
have
feeling
to pick up that slack on weeknights.
Yes. If you can win that, then you have a game at San Jose State, which is very winnable. At Nevada.
Going back to the CSU game, somebody asked me this question, and I forgot to ask you. Apparently, Coach Linder paid for a bunch of energy drinks for the students.
Yeah. He bought the entire student section. I didn't know he bought it, but courtesy of Wyoming basketball, the entire student section got Red Bulls in the second half of the CSU game.
Which is strange to me because I don't know if that's the right product.
I don't know. They said it over the loudspeaker. They said Red Bull.
Anyway.
It was interesting. I didn't write about it because I think we were all in shock. So after that game, I think that one kind of slipped my mind.
It might become a tradition. Who knows?
Maybe.
You know what, though? If it takes pizza, if it takes whatever, just get the students there. And they should not need to be given anything to come to a game.
Right.
But at the same time, if they need something to entice them, get them there.
Funny story. I'd love to talk to Tom Berman about this one time. Back in the day when Wyoming was really good in the early 2000s, we were Wyoming was hosting BYU, and it was one of those awesome weekends, BYU Utah. And the fans are, of course, chanting FU BYU, and in the arena it's so loud.
What's that mean?
And then the arena was so packed back then, and the student section was just all the way to the roof. I mean, it was so good back then. Tom Berman walked by me and he said, hey, can I interest you in a pizza? And I'm like, sure. And he goes, you got to promise me that you're not going to say F U BYU or encourage others, and then people around here, you got to tell them to not. And I was like, you're not buying my silence with a pizza. Take your pizza out of here, boy. Not interested.
Wink, wink. Okay.
Yeah, nope. I said, you can keep your damn pizza. There's nothing keeping me quiet today. But yeah, it would be great to see them show up. You see these other student sections around the country, around the conference, aside from Air Force and San Jose State. They're great. They're great. And Utah State keeps getting all these props for how good they're student. That makes me sick.
And the Spectrum sits 9,000?
Something like
10,000, whatever.
Yeah.
That whole end zone is full, and it actually comes around the corner to about half court.
Yeah.
It's all students.
Yeah, that's how Michigan State was almost the whole half of the lower bowl, or the entire lower bowl.
I hate saying it, CSU student section has been really, really good the last several years.
They're really good. And San Diego State.
Obviously, the Pit is. Yeah. I don't even know if any of those are students in there. I think they're just fans.
Well, I tell you, my buddy just went to that game. He happened to be in Albuquerque for the Boise State game the other night, and he was like, dude, this place is loud.
Yeah, that place is very loud.
Yeah.
I went to a WAC tournament down there in the, 93-ish, 92, 94, whenever. I remember, and Deion Sanders was there for a WAC tournament.
That's weird.
Just an afternoon session. There's Deion sitting there.
That's interesting.
Very rare.
Yeah, I wonder what the hell he was doing. Weird.
Drug deal.
Yeah. So UNLV, big one, very big one. You look ahead, like we talked about, New Mexico got 2 ranked teams coming into Laramie after that. Likely to still be ranked. New Mexico, Utah State, then at San Jose State. I mean, you hate to, but it's fun to dream a little. You got 2 potential humongous upsets in front of you if you can get past a wildly mediocre UNLV team that should not be wildly mediocre. They're also missing Justin Webster, one of their top guards. He's out with an ankle injury. Don't expect him to play tomorrow night. They're still loaded, and they've actually probably been playing better without him. So you win that game, man, you're opening yourself up for some serious opportunities. And, I told you before we came on the air, I'm ready to be hurt again. I mean, that's what everybody says, but be hurt, man. Have fun with this. This is good. Like you said, you didn't expect 5 Mountain West wins already?
And
they win 3, they're going 500 Mountain West play.
We offered 2 free tickets to the CSU game, and nobody took you up on it except for somebody that lived way out of state and was never going to make it here.
Yeah.
So we'll do it again.
Yeah.
For Tuesday night's game. First one to tweet or text Cody.
Yeah.
Gets 2 free tickets to the New Mexico-Wyoming game on Tuesday night.
Hell of a deal.
Take him up on it.
And if they beat UNLV, you better take him up on it. That's it's fun to look ahead here, man. Like we said, after that Air Force game, I clicked on Mountain West standings, and
this is what's great to think about. If the season ended today going into the Mountain West tournament, Wyoming gets first round bye.
Yep.
CSU has to play on day 1.
Yep. 5-6, Wyoming be 5. Wyoming is ahead of CSU, UNLV, and Nevada in the standings right now.
They're tied for 4th, right?
Tied for 4th with San Diego State.
Yeah.
New Mexico 6-3, so they're tied in the loss column with New Mexico too. Boise State's at 6-2. Utah State is at 7-1. It's unbelievable, and you look too. Wyoming, this has really been the key. 8-1 at home, with not a great home court advantage right now. I know we saw those people on Twitter bitching and saying, kick Wyoming out of the conference, and that place is so hard to play in, and yada, yada.
Well, what makes that even funnier as well is they were like, oh, it's so hard to get to. It's 3 hours from Denver, blah, blah, blah. I was like, you're from San Diego State. San Diego State hasn't flown commercial to Laramie in probably 15 years.
Not to mention it takes about 3 hours to get across San Diego.
Yeah, so don't tell me that your team, San Diego State, is flying into Denver.
Right.
They are chartering. Almost every conference team charters during the conference season because of class schedules.
No doubt.
So don't sit in here and whine about that.
Oh, and it's probably much easier to charter when you only have a basketball team to put on a plane instead of a football team.
Yeah, and think about also that maybe you should kick San Diego State out of the league because football teams have to go to the naval base to fly out of there because of your 9 o'clock rule of your no aircrafts at the commercial airport. All those kind of things. Just shut up.
Love it. Bringing some inside info.
Well, and plus, if San Diego State has to fly into Denver and then drive up, what do you think Wyoming has to do then?
Yeah.
Drive to Denver and fly out.
Yeah,
exactly. So don't. And they have
Isn't San Diego State going to the Pac-12 anyway?
Oh. Is there a Pac-12?
God, I wish they would have. Sayonara, dude. I had no love lost here. None.
Yes, great run last year.
Yeah, I got a few teams you can take with you if you're interested. But reason to be excited. There's reason to be excited right now. No question about it. And we haven't felt that way in a long time. Probably since the opening tip of last year when we thought everything was going to be A-okay and then found out pretty quickly that was not going to happen. So I didn't check this out before we came on. Maybe you have. See any stats from the East-West Shrine Bowl that Easton Gibbs played in last night?
Well, you've been seeing me looking down at my computer trying to pull it up. I cannot find a box score anywhere.
I just pulled something up that says final stats results, but I don't know if it's going to have.
But it doesn't show defensive totals and stuff.
What we do know, though, is Easton Gibbs was out for the handshake at the coin toss. And
he was the practice player of the day.
Yep.
Or made the practice team.
Practice team of the week. Yep. Was out there for the coin toss, so I don't know. I would say it's pretty safe to say he was the team captain.
But I cannot find a box score anywhere.
I'm not seeing one either.
And this is all through the NFL Network. Their website is stuff, but there's no box score. Like, be better, people.
Yeah. Yeah, don't know how. I saw some videos of him, watched a little bit of it last night, but saw some videos of him making a couple tackles. Easton's one of those dudes, he's been overlooked. Speaking of San Diego, he's from the area, Temecula. He's been overlooked forever. From talking to him, he played at a high school that was really not known for football. And at the time, when he was in high school, Hank Bachmeyer was across town at the football school tearing it up and goes to Boise State. Easton really, his offer was Wyoming. He came to Wyoming, and what I love about him is he fully embraced the culture. You see him walking around town. He's wearing cowboy boots during the summer. He went to the Sheridan Rodeo, went to Frontier Days. That's a Southern California kid, and he is Wyoming to the core now, and he literally considers, some of these guys go, I consider Wyoming like a second home. He means it. So really excited for him. He got an invite to the Combine. That's huge. I mean, they don't just invite anybody to the Combine. So to have him and Frank Crum, I was trying to look up this, and I never found it. Jared, maybe you know. I can't remember a time when Wyoming had two guys at the Combine.
That's a good...
And I couldn't find it. They didn't have it readily available. So,
yeah, I can't remember the last time either. Gosh, then you have to think about who's all been invited to the Combine.
Yeah. And of late, I want to say Logan Wilson, Josh Allen,
Muma.
I don't even know if Chase Roulier got an invite. I don't remember. Or Brian Hill. I don't think Brian Hill got one.
Huh. Man, we'll do some research, folks. Yeah. Get back to you next time.
I didn't give it hell looking for it, but I looked at some stuff and like you said, the official NFL website, and it just didn't give me anything.
For some reason I wanted to say that Roulier was there the same time Josh was.
Roulier graduated the
year before.
Yeah.
Well, would maybe Wingard and Roulier together?
I don't think Wingard went.
I'm stretching here, folks.
Yeah. Not that I really had locked on to the Combine, and for a couple of those years I was covering Michigan State, and they actually denied my press pass to go to Indianapolis right down the street, which was really bizarre.
Really?
Yeah, I was shocked, and nobody else in my company in Gannett from Detroit or Lansing was even asking to go either. So, and I had 4 or 5 Spartans there, and I even offered to cover the Michigan players that were there. And nothing. So they denied me, and I was like, all right, I guess I'll drink beer this weekend.
Well, the year that Josh went, didn't a couple of reporters from Wyoming go out there?
Yes, I believe so. Yeah.
They're no longer with the organizations. But.
Yeah, and I know they went to Dallas when he was drafted.
Yep.
So, I mean, first round pick, you better be there for everything. Obviously Frank and Easton are not first round type of cats, but it'd be great, man. It'd be really cool to see them get drafted Frank is really making a name for himself. I mean, he is every bit of 6'8", 315. He is a huge, huge human being, and I think the scouts have to be excited. I talked to Frank about this. I said, man, you didn't look like you struggled against Texas at all. And he said, I really didn't. I mean, they were talented and they were fast, same with Texas Tech, and he dominated.
And then there's other games where you're like, man, how did he get beat by that guy?
Like Toledo and Air Force.
Yeah, but, I mean, you see it on defense a lot. They take plays off. Well, dang it, you're tired out there sometimes too, but you can't be once you get to this next level. You got to play.
Yeah. Well, you can say the same thing about Sebastian Harsh. How does he get in the backfield and have a big sack against Texas, but how does he not get in the backfield against the Portland State?
Schemes.
Yeah. Yeah. It's just, but I think Frank really – I know it was probably scary for those guys to come back an extra year because, that's a lot of college football. That's a lot of wear and tear. But I think Frank really upped his stock. He showed he could play the left side, the right side, showed dominance, a lot of dominance. I think about him opening those holes against Texas Tech in the opener that just were wide open, including the game-winning two-point conversion. Just he's a hell of a player. And then, of course, the Laramie, Wyoming thing, the fact he came in and couldn't even bench press 135 pounds. I mean, that guy has just grown leaps and bounds in every possible way. I'm really excited for him, and I'm really excited for Easton. I mean, he's overshadowed by two NFL linebackers, and we always forget Cash Malawia got drafted too.
Think about some of these players played for over 50% of Craig Bowles' Wyoming career.
That's true. Yeah, wow.
6 years.
Yeah, I never even thought of it that way. Good Lord. Yeah, he really only had a couple of classes.
Well, I was also, congratulations to Sean Gibson, former Cowboy with the San Francisco 49ers, gets to go to the Super Bowl. Think about he was recruited back when Joe Glenn was still involved.
Yeah.
That's a long time ago.
Was Mike Purcell as well? He might have just been a Dave Christensen guy, but those two are hanging around, man, and playing well.
Yeah, I mean, that's just a long time ago.
I want to say Tashawn's in year 12 right now.
That would make sense, yeah.
I think it's year 12. And
then he would have been in Wyoming 4 years, so that's 16 years.
Yeah.
And that would be right, that would be Joe Glenn's recruiting.
I think he helped his stock. He played corner. He played safety. He was damn good.
And he would have never came to Wyoming if it wasn't for his brother Marcel.
Yeah, and I wish they would have got their little brother to come to Wyoming who ran wild for New Mexico. That would have been nice. But, yeah, congratulations to Tashawn Gibson. Full disclosure, I was pulling for the Lions hard.
I was, too.
This Super Bowl's sick. I can't stand either one of these teams. I really can't stand Kansas City. Had it with them.
So I was listening to a national sports show this morning, and they were talking about how just 8 years ago they read a press release from Goodell saying that the NFL is never going to get in bed with gambling. They're never going to have a franchise in Las Vegas. There will never be a Super Bowl in Las Vegas. Well, in like 4 years, the Raiders are in Las Vegas. They build them, $2 billion stadium. And then they have a hockey team before that. Mm-hmm. And then all of a sudden they're awarded a Super Bowl.
The Oakland A's are coming.
And every single team has betting partners. So Goodell just totally went back on his word. But it's hard to not because of the amount of zeros and commas.
No question.
That each team and the NFL itself is getting. And all the professional. They're going to have an expansion NBA team here before long, too.
Oh, no doubt. Yep. I think their summer league probably draws more people than UNLV.
Yep.
Correct me if I'm wrong. I don't follow gambling stuff that much, but why can't Wyoming pioneer this and be like, we want FanDuel and put their ads all over Memorial Stadium?
The college thing is a little bit different. I can't remember what organization it was that was the official sports betting of CU Athletics, and then Learfield pulled it. They decided that they didn't want to be in bed with them. And I don't know what the whole thing was. So even though it obviously is legal, there's still something about having it tied directly with college.
Now, I know this is impossible, but I think you can explain it better than I can. I know I've heard you talk about it. I've heard Tom Berman talk about it. Why on earth couldn't you sign right now a $5 million contract with DraftKings and name the arena auditorium DraftKings Auditorium?
There's not enough people here. There's not enough to pay that amount of money for an organization like that. There's not enough money in the state of Wyoming.
I wanted to say that the excuse he gave me was that you can only do it off the value of the building.
Yeah, there is a certain percentage of the value of the building, and I don't know what that value is now with the renovations. It's higher than it used to be because it's been updated.
Yeah.
But it still needs to be called the Taco John's Center. That's all there is to it.
Didn't Taco John's leave?
Yeah, but they're still.
Well, and if you're not going to get a name where you're making money, why the hell wouldn't it be the Kenny Sailors Arena?
There was something, if you look back when it was built, it had to have an academic tie to it to get the legislative dollars at that point. So that's why they called it the arena and then the auditorium. It just silly stuff.
I hate it.
There's just not enough money in Wyoming to do naming rights to make it. I mean, there's some on some buildings, but not a lot.
Yeah. I always wondered, like, why it wouldn't be like in Boulder where they have the Coors Event Center.
Is it still called that?
I don't know.
They may have changed that by now, but
I don't know.
Yeah, it's the amount of people and the amount of money.
So what about like Pepsi? It's bottled in Worland and
only in the state of Wyoming.
Yeah, and they're obviously a huge sponsor of UW Athletics.
And well, they're the official soft drink of all campus.
And now there's not even a Pepsi Center anymore. And could you imagine putting a big ass Pepsi logo on the top of the dome?
It would be great. Once again, there's just not enough. Not enough events. I mean, they would have to have UFC fights. They would need to have a rodeo in their bull riding thing, more concerts. That's just something that Wyoming doesn't do. And that's why they should, in my opinion, when they did the renovations, should have never put the permanent floor down.
No doubt.
They should have put the concrete floor down, and then during, obviously, October 1 through the end of basketball season, they can pull that back for graduations one, because they still have to cover it for certain events. When they do a concert, they cover it.
Yeah.
But this way, they could do other things in there.
Well, and I wonder, I don't know if it's big enough, but I've talked to somebody about what it would take to turn that into an ice rink like the Pepsi Center and be able to do that. And
with those seats pushed back, the seats on the lower, like they do during practice, I think it would be big enough. But I could be wrong. It may not be long enough.
I wonder why they don't do stuff like that. Fill it with dirt and say, let's have a rodeo.
And I don't even think a full rodeo could go in there. I don't think the seats go back far enough for that.
Does Thomas and Mack go back far enough?
Yeah, because it's long enough.
Yeah.
It's still the shortest arena out there for everybody. But a bull riders only thing, a PBR event in that building.
Oh, it'd be great.
Now that they serve beer in there,
it
would be incredible.
Yes, it would.
UFC fight.
Yes.
Meredith and Archie Colgan.
And obviously Branch is in bed with those dudes.
Yeah, why not have a big event in there? And don't tell me it's because, well, these kids, it's all about the student athletes. They need to practice. That's why they have auxiliary gym.
Mm-hmm.
It's the Uniwyo Sports Complex. There are hoops in there.
Yeah.
It's okay for them to shoot on other hoops every once in a while.
No doubt. No doubt. And I know, like at Michigan State, they had a whole other gym underneath the Breslin Center.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. That's an interesting question.
I know at one point when I was still working there, they were talking about bringing a tennis event there, like a women's tennis deal that was like a celebrity, not like it was back in there with Billie Jean King and was Bobby Reagan.
Yeah, Bobby Reagan. Yeah.
It's nothing like that, but it was still some sort of a celebrity against a famous woman's, and then it got nixed. But things like that, there's been WWE, WWF in there.
Yeah.
Just those type of events, and it's good for the community.
Absolutely.
And you could attract a lot of good musicians,
Heck
especially if it's a big one to play in the round like Garth Brooks has in the past.
Yeah.
So
weird. Well, I guess I'll have to talk to Tom Berman about this.
And it's a revenue generator.
Yeah, you would think it'd be huge.
They could charge for parking all of a sudden.
Well, that's the whole thing with the naming rights. Like, even if you get a couple $100,000. That's a couple $100,000 more than you had, and it's not called the frickin' Arena Auditorium anymore. And then you know what? You know how it's working nowadays. Like, all right, your contract's up. You want to re-up? If you do, it's $1 million. Oh, you don't? Okay, well, here's this other company.
And that's the thing. You need to sign them for at least 10 years on these naming rights.
Yeah.
And then if they go bankrupt or whatever, then you have to find somebody else to pay for that, like happened to Sports Authority.
Yeah.
Down in Denver. But.
Enron.
Yep. Hey.
Minute Maid. We'll touch on a few things before we go here. Cowgirls had a huge opportunity the other night to jump into first place over UNLV. The Rebels pull it out 58-51.
UNLV is just that much more athletic.
They're good.
Watch the fourth quarter of that game. They have a couple of gals that can just get around Wyoming's defenders with ease. But hopefully it's different. I don't even know if they come to Laramie this year because of the schedule.
Well, you'd probably feel pretty good if these two meet in Vegas again.
Which I think they did last year in the tournament.
They did, yeah, because the Cowgirls they didn't shoot very well. Yeah. And that's kind of more of a runoff. They usually can shoot pretty damn well. And they hung with them all game. Just at the end, just a little too much. So they play Nevada this week, Saturday, tomorrow, I believe, in the Dome.
Yes.
And I want to say, I'm pulling it up here, the Cowgirls have beaten Nevada. I want to say there's some unbelievable streaks in women's basketball.
78 straight times.
That's, I think, Air Force.
Oh, okay.
I think Wyoming's never lost Air Force in women's basketball in Laramie.
Yeah, I think they've only lost 2 or 3 games total.
That's insane.
Like 42-3 or something.
Wow. Yeah, so 13-1. They're 23-9 all time against Nevada, 13-1 at home. Good chance to get back on track here for the Cowgirls. Saw Cowboy Wrestling took one on the chin last night to South Dakota State, the 11th ranked team.
2 duels in a row where Wyoming's highest ranked wrestlers gotten off to a bad start and lost.
Yep.
So hopefully Jor can get back on track. 'Cause they have 3 matches in 10 days, I believe.
Yeah, lost 33-3 last night to South Dakota State.
Which South Dakota State is ranked
11th
in the country.
Yeah,
so
they are. Other than that, man, just doing the thing. Did a little story this week. I'm going to have another one coming that's kind of interesting, but Jared and I talked about this one, Wyoming Cowboys on the cover of Sports Illustrated. Somebody called me out on it. I knew that would happen. I went through all 3,000 covers or whatever it is.
Who we missing? Era. Give me an era.
2000s basketball.
Theo Ratliff? I'm just thinking
college
when he was in the NBA.
College. but not in a Wyoming uniform. That's what threw me off.
Oh man.
I would have never got this one. Because I think he only played 1 year in Laramie.
I can't even think of transfers in the early 2000s.
He would have been a transfer under McLean, I believe, at the end of McLean's, maybe the beginning of Schroyer.
All right, you're going to have to tell me.
Sean O'Geary, who helped lead Wichita State to the Sweet 16, and he was on the front.
He transferred for his senior year to Wyoming.
Yes.
Yes, okay.
Yes.
All right. Yeah, okay. Huh.
That's the one I missed. Other than that, we got, of course, Fennis.
Yeah, but that one doesn't count.
I know. And you know what? I actually thought I was going to do another category here, like, say, if Rulon Gardner was on the front or that moron who played for the Steelers that went to BYU.
Kiesel.
Yeah.
You just pissed off Will Adu with that one. They're buddies.
Well, you know why I'm calling him a moron, Will. How you can do that, I will never know.
I think there's going to be a cage match with you guys and Cody this year.
Oh, boy. Hopefully it's with Will and not with Brett. The one that I caught that actually some people were like, I'm glad you caught that one, was the one with Patrick Ewing.
Oh, yep.
Yeah, because I was going through it, and Bill Garnett, I'm like, that sure looks like a Wyoming jersey. And I went, 1982, Georgetown, that is Wyoming.
Yep.
So that's not really a Wyoming cover, but... And then, of course, Jim Kick made it twice, and Conrad Dobler.
How funny is the Jim Kick that they did the same pose?
I know. It's weird.
And there had to be something to that.
Yeah. Oh, it's definitely because it's got Kick on the right and Zonka sitting on the football.
Yeah, so they're...
Too, when I'm going through this, it's interesting because when I was writing the one about Garnett, I was about to put, I know this, and I did put, I know this is a stretch because it's obviously Ewing pulling down a rebound over him, but I also put, I haven't seen any CSU guys on the cover, and after going through all those, there is one CSU guy who's been on a cover, and that's Joey Porter when he played for the Steelers. Wyoming has been on the cover with a current Wyoming athlete in Finis Dimbo, and then also, whether it's the focus of the picture or not.
And it wasn't just a weekly issue. It was the college basketball preview issue.
Right. Yeah, no doubt. So I started looking. I was going to do a big old thing, and I'm looking at Mountain West. I mean, really, UNLV's on the cover a couple of times because of their basketball back in the day, Larry Johnson and so forth. David Carr.
I was going to say Fresno, definitely.
Yep, David Carr was on the front, and then I want to say they also had a Sports Illustrated for their World Series team. So I think
Steve Weekland helped us out there.
Yeah, I think that was it for them. But other than that, Detmer was on for BYU.
That doesn't count. Doesn't count.
Just like wearing his BYU stuff. McMahon was on the front a bunch, but it was never wearing
the
BYU.
84 BYU football championship team, maybe?
I think it was just Detmer winning the Heisman.
Yep.
So it was Detmer in his BYU uniform. Other than that, I didn't see any Utah. Even the old guys, yeah. Alex Smith, didn't see them.
What about
no TCU?
What about the basketball player who was taken number one the same year that Smith was?
I didn't see.
They're still the only team, I think, ever to have a number one of both sports.
His name slipped my mind, Australian dude.
Yeah. What about Luke Longley of New Mexico?
Nope. Nope. No Urlacher either, even in a Bears uniform.
That's crazy that Josh Allen hasn't been on.
Somebody told me, I thought Josh was
He was on the kids, the SI Kids.
Oh, was he? Kids?
He and Diggs.
Oh, okay.
But but not
I didn't see any, and I was on SI.com, the vault, and it shows you everything. So I didn't see Josh.
Some of those, like the Fennis one, you can't buy that one for some reason, but you can buy a bunch of other ones.
I went to a website, and it was showing me the covers, and you can buy them.
It's SIcovers.com, but that one's not on there.
Huh. That's weird.
Yeah. Because you would think that would sell really well just because it's going to be higher pixels, and you could blow it up bigger than just a normal cover.
Cool. So, well, I'll blow what story I'm working on, and I'll put the pressure on myself to get it done before you people listen.
Real quick, don't lose that train of thought.
I got it.
Going back to other magazines, though, like the Sporting News had Joe Glenn on the cover. There was like Lindy's basketball preview had Marcus Bailey on the front cover one year, things like that, and those are regional ones. But the another one that I know you won't know about this.
Somebody might have told me.
A Playgirl.
Oh, no.
With a former 4-time WAC champion wrestler, Dave Myers. They took it up at Vitavu.
Really?
Yep. And I swear to you, I never saw the issue. But the sorority girls at the time, because I was in school at the same time, I think they bought everyone out in Laramie.
Wow. Remember how rad that was when they had the Playboy All-American team, and then they would also do like the girls from the Southeast Conference, and they could actually like wear a sweater with like Florida on it. And...
Well, the Bob Hope All-American team.
Yeah.
Ryan Yarbrough gets to introduce himself. I think maybe even Mitch Donahue.
But I know Marcus Harris was on the Playboy team, and I want to say Fleming?
Probably. I could see Sean just because he was a handsome fella.
I didn't say Marcus was handsome.
No, I didn't either. His was all about playing ability.
Yeah, no doubt. So what I'm thinking of is I saw a tweet from Brett McMurphy last week, and you might have saw the same one. There is an unbelievable stat out there that as good as Alabama football has been traditionally, no Alabama player has ever scored a point in a Super Bowl. Former Wyoming players, 30.
That is crazy.
Isn't that insane?
So you're doing a
I was going to just break down the 30 points.
This is a tease, folks. Scored. Make sure you click on the story and actually read it.
Yes.
Don't just comment on it.
But I just right offhand, I want to say Novacek probably was responsible for 19 of those minus the PATs, because they are counting the PATs, because there was even somebody from like Gulf Coast University or something that's kicked a PAT, and an Alabama guy has never even scored a point.
Wow.
That's wild, isn't it? Like Joe Namath didn't score in the Super Bowl he was responsible for some points, but he didn't
guaranteed
scored.
Win.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, Novacek definitely has.
Did he have I think he had 3 touchdowns in a Super Bowl or in his Super Bowl appearances.
See, I thought he would have been on the cover of SI, the one against Pittsburgh in the Rose Bowl.
Me too.
I thought I can see that picture and I can see it in my vision.
Yep.
But I thought that was on the front cover of Sports Illustrated.
Yep. I looked for Novacek the whole way through. They even had some big Cowboys issues from when they were a dynasty.
Yep. And you can type in names.
Yeah.
And they just don't come up.
Yep. And I want to say Jerry Hill scored maybe a touchdown or 2. I want to say maybe he was responsible for 2 touchdowns for the Colts. Other than that, I also believe the first touchdown, I might be wrong on this, but I believe the first touchdown in Super Bowl history was Boyd Dowler, Cheyenne, Wyoming native, who went to CU. I want to say he was a tight end for the Packers, and I want to say he caught the very first touchdown in Super Bowl history.
That could be easily found, I guess. Wow.
But
that's interesting. Speaking of that, this going down maybe a little bit of a rabbit hole here, but I saw a tweet with Tennessee's latest violations.
Yeah.
They listed every SEC team, which there's now 14.
I think so.
Is that right? Alabama 0, Georgia 0, Vanderbilt 0. These are NCAA violations in the last 15 years. And then there's like 1, 3, 4. Tennessee 48.
I believe it.
And these aren't just like your level 1 or level 2s. These are your level 3 and beyond. The ones that are actually like, you can lose a scholarship, you can lose recruiting visits, you can lose this and that.
Wow.
Yeah. The other ones are like, oh, thanks for turning yourself in, just don't do it again.
And good for Tennessee's AD for coming out and being like, this is bull.
48, though.
And nobody else?
Yeah.
Were you ever at Wyoming when they had a violation or anything?
Oh, yeah.
The only thing I could ever think of is I want to say McLean's group got in trouble for some grade point average stuff.
That's not an NCAA violation. That's just the APR.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that's not a violation. But you lose scholarships.
I think that's the only trouble I've ever known of at Wyoming.
Volleyball. During the late Carrie Yurdy, who passed away a couple years ago, when she was the head coach, she got fired over it. They had some recruiting stuff going on, and they bought, this is what's silly about it, some blankets or something like that. I can't remember the whole thing, but yeah, they were put on. They lost a couple scholarships.
Huh.
Yep.
Yeah, I'd never heard of that. Interesting. Yeah, I'm really looking forward to doing that story just to look into who all scored the points, because I can only think of Jerry Hill and Jay Novacek. I know like Aaron Kyle had a pick against the Broncos in the Super Bowl, but I don't think he scored. Other than that, I don't know who would have scored.
Yeah, because all the players that have played in it recently are all
Kick might have scored.
Defensive players.
Kick might have had a touchdown or 2 in a Super Bowl as well, now that I think about it. I mean, he played for some damn good Dolphins teams.
Yeah, I'm just wondering, though, they always had him in there to block for Zonka so he could get the touchdowns maybe.
Yeah, and I'm certain Jerry Hill scored in a Super Bowl, but I'm definitely certain Jay Novacek did. So other than that, I can't really think of who else would have.
I don't think there was ever a place kicker.
Yeah, I don't think so either. I know there was a player that played for the Bengals, the Bengals, who caused a fumble on the opening kickoff of the Super Bowl against the Niners. Who caused a fumble was from Wyoming. Can't remember his name. Also, there was an awesome kick returner, Vic Washington, for the Niners. But I don't recall them scoring in a Super Bowl. I would think we would know all about Wyoming players that scored in a Super Bowl, no matter how long ago it was. But interesting to look into. I'm going to look into it and see where those 30 points came from, because it's definitely interesting. I couldn't believe when I saw that stat about Alabama.
Wyoming greater sign Alabama?
No, by far.
Super Bowl scoring.
Yeah, you might want to start recruiting off that, Jay. Thought it was interesting, but excited for tomorrow. 6 p.m. tip-off inside the Thomas & Mack Center. It's going to be on CBS Sports Network.
And the Cowboys will get in and out of Vegas before everything happens next week for the Super Bowl.
Nick asked me, you're going to go to this game in Vegas this weekend? And I'm like, can you imagine what hotel rooms look like in Las Vegas right now?
Even a week in advance.
Oh, yeah. Oh, it'd be unbelievable. And I do have a family member there, but it was too late in the game. But tell you what, I'm excited for the Mountain West tournament now. And no matter what, I mean, it's hard to believe when you put it this way. They win 3 more games, which they've played a lot of games on the road. They still have a lot of home games. They win 3 more games. They're going to finish 800 or 500 in Mountain West Conference play. And you tell me that before the season, I would have said, sign me up.
Yep.
Sign me up, man. If Wyoming can land somewhere between 4 and 6 in seeding for the Mountain West tournament, that would be
especially when
that's
they
a win.
were picked 10th.
Yeah,
most
10th.
Yeah.
10th. Yeah, that's a huge win in my book. So hope you guys are getting behind this team. I'm certainly getting excited about this team. They're making it easy to get excited right now. And, like I said, get ready to get hurt again. There's going to be some bumps in the road. No doubt about it. I mean, this conference is just too damn good. But, like I wrote in my column before the season started, create frickin' chaos. And that's exactly what the Cowboys are doing right now. So see if they can get it done against the Rebels for the first time since 2003. That's absolutely insane. Let's end that stat. I hope I never get to write that again. So, anything else, Jared?
I'm heading to Phoenix for the Waste Management Open, and
there you go.
Not happy with the weather forecast whatsoever.
Really? Is it going to be like
low
rainy?
60s, and then there's Wednesday and Thursday of the practice round and the first day of the tournament. Low 60s and rain. Yeah, just not happy.
Damn. It was nice when I was there, like comparable. I mean, it was 60s, but it was perfect. But
this week, it's in the past, it's been, in the low 70s. And this last week down there, they hit 80 one day. It's like, just let's get to the mid 70s. But Monday's the only day that we see right now that's going to be in the 70s, and we are playing golf that day, so we're happy about that. But
when I pulled into Colorado Springs the other day, my car said 65 degrees.
Well, it was 61 in Cheyenne just yesterday or the day before.
It's been beautiful. Makes you think what the hell's coming down the pike. So hopefully nothing Tuesday night because
there's snow tonight and tomorrow, but I think early part of next week's okay.
Yeah, let's show up at the Dome of Doom. Let's let it earn that nickname again. I have a really hard time even calling it that anymore. I really want to see the students show up. Really want to see people get there, get to the game. This team's fun, man. If anything, they're competitive as hell and they're fun to watch. Hopefully Sam Griffin's got over his illness, whatever that is. I guess some other news, too, that I didn't mention. It sounds like Kobe Doon is out for the year. Had some kind of infection. I know he was at the CSU game wearing a boot. So when we saw him in a boot, we thought,
yeah, that's what
they made it kind of sound like it was some kind of freak-like illness or something, which that makes sense now if it was some kind of infection, illness, something. But he's wearing a boot on his foot, and Lender said he's likely out for the year.
And I do have to correct you real quick. There's 18 conference games instead of 16, so they would have to get to 9 wins.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
They changed that a couple years ago when they went to, which makes sense for scheduling. They need more conference games.
I think it's doable.
Yep, I do too.
I really do.
9-9 would be an incredible finish for this team.
You still have Air Force on the schedule. You still have Fresno. You still have San Jose State. Plus, I don't know, man. Maybe I'm crazy, but it doesn't strike fear to me in me that the mighty Lobos are paying a visit to Laramie next Tuesday. That does not strike fear in me whatsoever. Maybe a little more so Utah State. They've been playing out of their mind, and they actually play in Laramie really well. And
I know this is going to piss a lot of people off that almost the majority of all these conference games are not televised.
I know.
So, they're on the Mountain West Network, but not everybody. They still scream about trying to get it. And watching that, it's pretty easy on these new TVs, folks. But at the same time, it helps out with home crowds.
Yeah, no doubt. And it beats the hell out of the alternative, man. Back in the day, we had to listen
radio
to it on
only.
Radio. Yep.
No offense, Dave, Kevin, and Keith, and whoever else has been doing the games, but it's not the same.
It's not the same. And back then, I mean, in the early 2000s, Wyoming's really good, and they're on the road, and there's no TV at all. And it was just really frustrating. And who really got rubbed out were the women's teams. And now the women's teams are all on the mountain. So we talked about it on the way home. It's something all the beat writers, we rode down together to Colorado Springs, but something we talked about is how much we loved the Mountain Network and how much we miss it, and how how the Mountain West had the foresight to start their own television network, and how, even in the, just somebody was with us on the trip who didn't know about the Mountain. They were like, well, what do they do during the summer? That was even the best, because it'd be Wyoming week.
Yeah, each team had their own week.
Yeah, so you'd get all Wyoming everything for a week, and it was fantastic, and I do miss that.
Yeah, but we'd still be seeing Brett's face and hearing his voice.
You think?
If you know, you know. Still
hanging on, huh? No, I loved it, and I wish they could have found a way to really monetize that and do something, because, boy, look what they started.
Yeah, but the Longhorn Network's going to die.
Yep, it's done.
The Sooner Network, I mean, all these, they're not the same. They're not there anymore.
But
Pac-12 Network obviously is gone.
Yeah, but the SEC Network's going.
But they're in bed with the ESPN.
Sure.
It's actually ESPN. It's just the SEC on ESPN.
And then we have 2 years till the television contract comes up. I guess we can end on this, because we talked about that. Do you want to be on ESPN? Do you want to be on CBS Sports? Do you want to be on Fox? Do you want to keep doing what they're doing? What are the negatives about being on ESPN, that they can say, hey, we need you to play on Wednesday night, Thursday night, Friday night? I mean, we're still kind of doing that anyway.
Yeah.
And now ESPN's going to be looking for some late night slots to fill.
After Bad Beats was on Monday night on Scott Van Pelt Sports Center, he even brought up, he goes, bring back Big Monday.
Please.
Because how fun was that?
It was the best, but could you imagine what it'd be like right now if your team's not good?
Yeah.
I mean, Wyoming was good. Those 10 o'clock tips were unbelievable.
And there was 8,000 to 9,000 people there.
Every night.
On a Monday at 10 p.m.
Yep. And we didn't have social media back then, so I don't know how many people were out there bitching about it, per se, but I don't recall people bitching.
People were driving down from Casper, coming from Green River, Rock Springs.
Yep.
They were there.
They were saying, you know what, Tuesday's going to suck, but it's going to be worth it. And aside from one miracle shot from UNLV, it was worth it.
And it was only a couple times a year. It wasn't like every single Monday was 10 p.m.
Yeah. No, and I miss the travel partner stuff, and knowing you had Utah and BYU on the weekend, and that was so good.
I think there's been a Mountain West basketball game every night of the week except for a Monday.
Yeah.
Maybe a Thursday.
Yeah.
Because I know there's been Friday and Sunday have been taken care of, which is weird.
But I wouldn't even complain. I know a lot of people will. But if we had those late night starts in football season in the late slot for ESPN, I wouldn't mind that one bit.
September, early October.
Yeah. I can say that because I'm in the press box. But, yeah, I wouldn't mind it a bit, especially if Wyoming's good and getting all that exposure. I wouldn't mind that a bit. So, all right, guys. Well, thanks for joining us this week. I will hit the right button this week so that it shows up automatically for you.
For Spotify, your Apple people, all that kind of stuff. So,
yep, you're going to get
Sorry about that.
Before I have time to even write a story. All right, well, Wyoming, UNLV, do you have a line on that before we go? Do you know?
It's not out yet.
Not out yet. Okay.
It'll be out about 10 o'clock tonight.
All right. Cowboys, Rebels, Thomas Mack Center, 6 p.m., CBS Sports
I'm going to
Network.
guess, though, Vegas -8.
I would have said the same thing, I think.
Take the points.
Yep. Have a good feeling. Have a good feeling. Don't yell at us because we have a good feeling.
You know who you are in Salt Lake.
Yeah. All right. Have a good week.